When a woman values herself, it shows in the way she communicates. She doesn't need to be loud, harsh, or controlling. Instead, her power is in how she sets the tone, calm, clear, and confident. Today, I'll share how a high-value woman talks to men so her words reflect strength, respect, and self-worth. Being direct but kind is one of the most powerful ways a high-value woman communicates with men. It means you say what you mean without wrapping it in unnecessary fluff, but you deliver it in a way that still feels respectful and considerate. Too often, women fall into one of two extremes. Either they soften their words so much that their message gets lost, or they become blunt to the point where it sounds cold or harsh. High-value communication avoids both traps. It combines clarity with compassion. For example, let's say a man makes plans and forgets to include you. A reaction from insecurity might sound like, "Wow, I guess you don't even care about me," which is defensive and accusatory. On the other hand, being too soft might look like, "Oh, that's fine. No worries. I'll just figure something else out." Even though you feel hurt inside, a direct but kind approach would sound more like, "I feel left out when I'm not included in your plans. Next time, I'd like to be part of it." That's clear, that's respectful, and it doesn't water down your truth. Being direct but kind also means you respect both yourself and the other person. You're not hiding what you need, but you're also not attacking them for what they did. The kindness keeps the conversation open, while the directness makes sure your voice is actually heard. If you lean too far into being nice, you'll end up being overlooked. If you lean too far into being blunt, you'll create resistance and push people away. The balance is where true value shows. Another example is when you disagree with a man. Instead of saying, "That's a stupid idea," which is cutting, or avoiding it with, "Whatever you want, I don't mind," you could say, "I see where you're coming from, but I look at it differently. Here's why." That way, you're disagreeing without disrespect. You're standing your ground, but you're doing it with grace. Tone plays a huge role here too. Direct words can sound sharp if they're said with irritation, but the same words can feel warm if spoken with steady calmness. "I don't agree with that" can sound harsh if your voice is sharp, but if you deliver it in a calm, even tone, it communicates confidence instead of aggression. That's what makes men stop and listen. At the end of the day, being direct but kind is about valuing yourself enough to be clear and valuing others enough to be gentle. It's not weakness, it's not harshness, it's strength with grace. And when a woman communicates this way, she doesn't have to fight for respect. Her words carry weight naturally because they show she knows both her worth and how to treat people well. That combination is magnetic. Setting boundaries with warmth is one of the clearest signs of a woman who values herself. A boundary is simply a line that defines what you will and won't allow in your life, but how you communicate that line makes all the difference. Too many times, people think boundaries have to sound harsh, like a strict command or a punishment. But when a high-value woman sets boundaries, she does it in a way that protects her peace without creating unnecessary conflict. She knows her limits, and she expresses them with steady kindness. Imagine a situation where a man speaks to you in a tone that feels dismissive. One reaction might be silence. You say nothing, hoping it won't happen again, but inside you feel disrespected. The opposite reaction might be snapping back with, "Don't ever talk to me like that again," which only escalates the tension. Boundaries with warmth sound different. It's calmly saying, "I don't like being spoken to that way. Let's talk respectfully." You've set a clear limit, but you've left the door open for connection instead of closing it with hostility. The warmth is what keeps the relationship healthy. A boundary isn't about controlling someone else. It's about expressing what you allow in your space. By saying it with respect, you make it easier for the other person to actually hear you. A cold wall shuts people out, but a warm boundary teaches them how to treat you. It's strength without bitterness. This also applies to everyday situations. If a man cancels plans at the last minute, instead of saying nothing and silently resenting it or lashing out with, "You never keep your word," you could say, "I was really looking forward to our time together. If you can't make it, I'd appreciate more notice next time." That sentence sets the boundary. You want reliability, but it delivers it with kindness, which makes it far more likely he'll respect it. The secret here is remembering that boundaries aren't about punishment. They're about clarity. They aren't about building walls. They're about teaching others how to have access to you in the right way. Men respect women who respect themselves, and part of self-respect is knowing what you will not accept. But when you add warmth, you're not pushing him away. You're actually guiding him closer to the right way of connecting with you. The key is calmness. A boundary shouted in anger often gets ignored because the emotion drowns out the message. But a boundary spoken with steady calmness lands deeply because it communicates confidence. It says, "I know my worth, and I don't need to raise my voice to prove it." That tone makes all the difference. When a high-value woman sets boundaries with warmth, she protects her dignity while keeping the relationship open to growth. She doesn't allow disrespect, but she also doesn't destroy connection in the process. And that balance, firmness with kindness, is exactly what makes her communication powerful. It's not about scaring a man into disrespecting you. It's about teaching him through your words and your tone that your value is non-negotiable. Confidence in simplicity is one of the strongest communication traits a high-value woman can have. It means you don't need long explanations, complicated stories, or endless justifications to make your point. You trust that your words carry enough weight on their own, and because of that, you keep them simple. A lot of times, people over-explain because they are afraid of being misunderstood, or they want approval, or they think the more they talk, the more convincing they will sound. But true confidence is the opposite. It's knowing that less is more. When you're confident, you don't feel pressured to prove yourself with paragraphs. You don't go into a spiral of, "Well, I only said that because I was tired and yesterday was hard and I didn't mean it that way. And what I really wanted was," and so on. That kind of over-explaining not only weakens your message, it signals insecurity. Instead, a high-value woman would say something as simple as, "That came out wrong. What I meant is this," clear, direct, finished. Simplicity also works when expressing needs. Instead of saying, "I hate when you forget to text me because it makes me feel like you don't care, and I've had people do that in the past, and it always brings back those feelings," you can simply say, "I like consistency. It helps me feel secure." The shorter version is stronger. It communicates the same truth, but with more calmness and less emotional clutter. A man doesn't get lost in a speech. He hears you clearly. This kind of simplicity communicates confidence because it shows you trust yourself. You believe that your needs and boundaries are valid without needing to convince anyone. The less you explain, the more powerful your words become. When you keep it simple, men don't tune you out, they lean in because the message is sharp and easy to grasp. Another layer to this is how simplicity avoids drama. Long explanations often get tangled with blame, excuses, or old wounds, which can spark unnecessary conflict. Simplicity cuts through that. For example, instead of saying, "You're always late," and it feels like you don't respect my time, and this always happens whenever we plan something, you could say, "I need you to be on time." That's it. Strong, clear, and it leaves no room for confusion. Confidence in simplicity also shows up in the way you end conversations. You don't drag them out to make sure the other person is okay with you. You don't keep repeating yourself for reassurance. You say what you need to say, you pause, and you let your words land. Silence after a simple, confident statement is often more powerful than filling the air with nervous chatter. When a woman speaks with simplicity, she commands respect without demanding it. Her words aren't coded in insecurity or desperate for validation. They're clean, straightforward, and firm. And the beauty of it is that simplicity doesn't feel cold. It feels grounded. A high-value woman trusts that she doesn't need to explain her worth. Her communication reflects that trust. She knows that the simplest words, spoken with calm confidence, often carry the loudest impact. Curiosity over judgment is one of the smartest ways a high-value woman communicates with men. Instead of jumping to conclusions or criticizing, she chooses to ask questions and understand the other person's perspective first. This doesn't mean she agrees with everything or ignores her own feelings. It means she approaches situations with the mindset of, "Help me understand," instead of, "I already know what you meant." That shift in approach changes the entire tone of a conversation. When someone feels judged, they naturally become defensive. Their walls go up and the real communication shuts down. But when someone feels you're genuinely curious, they open up, they explain, they share, and they feel safe to be honest. For example, if a man cancels plans, judgment sounds like, "You never prioritize me. You clearly don't care." Curiosity sounds like, "I noticed you canceled. Was something important going on?" One pushes him away, the other invites him to be understood. Choosing curiosity doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means gathering the full picture before responding. Maybe he canceled because of something careless, or maybe because of something unavoidable. You'll only know if you ask, and once you know, you can decide how to respond with clarity. A high-value woman doesn't waste energy reacting blindly. She takes a step back, asks, and then responds from a place of understanding and strength. Another example is during disagreements. If a man says something you strongly disagree with, judgment would sound like, "That's ridiculous. I can't believe you think that way." But curiosity would sound like, "Interesting. What makes you feel that way?" Instead of shutting him down, you open the door for dialogue. And in that dialogue, you often find opportunities to express your own perspective more effectively. Curiosity gives you leverage, judgment shuts it down. Tone is key here too. The same words can feel judgmental if your voice is sharp, but curious if your tone is calm and open. Asking, "Why did you do that?" with irritation feels like an accusation. Asking it with genuine calmness feels like an invitation to explain. A high-value woman pays attention not only to the words she uses, but to the tone that carries them. The deeper reason curiosity is so powerful is because it shows security. When you're curious, you're not threatened. You're not rushing to defend yourself or attack the other person. You're grounded enough to listen first. That kind of calmness makes a man respect you because it shows you're not ruled by assumptions or emotions. You're steady, and that steadiness commands attention. In the end, curiosity over judgment builds connection while protecting your value. You still hold your boundaries, but you don't throw accusations before you know the truth. You give space for honesty, and in return, you communicate your strength without hostility. Men remember how you make them feel, and when you replace judgment with curiosity, you create space for respect and trust to grow. That's the mark of a high-value woman. She listens with calm strength, and then she responds with clarity. Less emotion and more clarity is one of the strongest ways a high-value woman communicates. It doesn't mean she hides her feelings or pretends not to care. It means she refuses to let her emotions take over and cloud her message. When emotions drive the conversation, words often come out scattered, sharp, or overwhelming. But when clarity leads, the message lands with power. A high-value woman knows that the goal is to be understood, not to explode. Think about a situation where a man forgets to call when he said he would. A high emotion reaction might sound like, "You don't care about me. You always do this. I can't believe I can't count on you." Those words are driven by hurt, but they blur the actual message. On the other hand, clarity sounds like, "When you don't call, I feel unimportant. I need consistency." That version is calm, specific, and far more effective. The first one pushes him away. The second one teaches him how to show up. Emotions are natural, but when they spill out uncontrolled, they weaken your communication. Too much anger, too much sadness, or even too much over-excitement can distract from the point. Clarity brings the focus back. Instead of drowning in how you feel, you highlight what needs to change or what you expect. And that shift makes men listen differently. They don't feel attacked, they feel guided. Another example is during conflict. If he raises his voice and you respond by matching his volume, the conversation turns into a battle. That's high emotion meeting high emotion. But if you respond with calm clarity, saying, "I want to talk about this, but not like this. Let's lower our voices first," you take control without aggression. Your clarity redirects the energy instead of feeding the chaos. Less emotion doesn't mean coldness. It means balance. You can still express feelings, but you do it in a way that's steady and composed. Instead of saying, "I'm so mad at you right now, you've ruined everything," you can say, "I'm upset and I need some space to calm down before we talk." Same emotion, but delivered with clarity and control that shows maturity and strength. The truth is, people take you more seriously when your words are clear and calm. Emotional explosions may grab attention in the moment, but they rarely create lasting respect. Clarity, on the other hand, is remembered. It shows self-control, and self-control is a mark of confidence. When you speak with clarity, you send the message, I value myself enough not to lose myself in the heat of the moment. At the core, less emotion and more clarity is about respect. Respect for yourself and respect for the conversation. You don't let your feelings silence you, but you also don't let them take over. You express them in a way that is steady, firm, and clear. And that's exactly what makes men listen. Because clarity cuts through the noise while emotion alone only adds to it. A high-value woman knows her strength isn't in the volume of her feelings, but in the precision of her words. Self-respect first is the foundation of how a high-value woman communicates with men. Every word, every tone, and every boundary she sets comes from the understanding that she values herself before she seeks validation from anyone else. When self-respect is missing, communication often becomes about pleasing, chasing, or proving. But when self-respect is in place, the communication becomes about expressing, leading, and protecting your peace. That difference is everything. When a woman puts self-respect first, she doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't lower her standards to be liked or stay silent to keep the peace. Instead, she speaks in a way that reflects her worth. If a man talks down to her, she doesn't ignore it just to avoid conflict. She calmly says, "I won't continue a conversation when I'm being disrespected." That's self-respect speaking. She doesn't lash out, but she also doesn't let it slide. She honors herself first. This principle also shows up in the way she expresses her needs. Without self-respect, a woman might say, "I don't want to bother you, but could you maybe call me when you have time?" The hidden message there is, my needs aren't important. But with self-respect, the same woman would say, "Consistency matters to me. I'd like you to call when you say you will." Notice the difference. One is apologetic, the other is confident. Self-respect keeps her from shrinking her voice. Putting self-respect first also means she doesn't tolerate patterns of behavior that go against her values. If a man is inconsistent, dismissive, or careless with her time, she doesn't stay and try to earn his effort. She communicates clearly, "This doesn't work for me," and she steps back. It's not about punishing him, it's about protecting herself. A high-value woman knows that her peace of mind is worth more than someone's half-hearted effort. Tone plays a role here, too. Self-respect doesn't sound angry or bitter. It sounds steady and assured. A woman who respects herself doesn't need to scream to be taken seriously. Her calm words carry weight because they come from a place of certainty. For example, saying, "I expect honesty in a relationship," in a calm tone is far more powerful than shouting, "You better not lie to me!" One is fear-driven, the other is value-driven. When you put self-respect first, you send a clear message without ever saying it out loud. "I am not afraid of being alone. I am afraid of losing myself." That mindset changes everything about how you communicate. You're no longer chasing someone's approval because you already approve of yourself. You're not trying to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. And men feel that energy. It makes them respect you more because respect always begins with how you treat yourself. At the heart of it, self-respect first means you never compromise your value in exchange for attention or acceptance. You communicate from a place of worth, not need. And when a woman speaks with that foundation, she doesn't have to force respect. It naturally follows. That is the quiet, undeniable strength of a high-value woman. At the end of the day, The way a high-value woman talks to men isn't about playing games, raising her voice, or proving a point. It's about communicating with calm strength. She speaks directly but kindly. She sets boundaries with warmth, and she keeps her words simple because she trusts her value. She chooses curiosity instead of judgment, clarity instead of emotional overflow, and above all, she puts self-respect first. That combination is what makes her words land with impact. It's not about being perfect. It's about being steady, clear, and true to yourself. When you speak this way, you don't just earn respect from others. You show that you already respect yourself, and that is the mark of a truly high-value woman.